Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Tune In podcast. And today we're going to podcast like it's 1999.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. In which case, you need to stop existing.
Oh yeah, of course.
Might be a bit of a challenge, that, but it's fine. And also the audio quality needs to be reduced by about 7,000%. But right, let's just change the settings. I'm like, no, obviously not. This is just that the theme for this week is obviously our tri-weekly special, where the theme is a year, and this year it is this week, it is the other year of birth of the other podcast host, which is 1999.
So, just as the last one, we've got three subcategories within our list. So we've got 2 songs that were influential, 2 songs that are just our favourites from the year, and then 2 songs that we think you guys might not know or the other person might not know about. And we also have a really great question from Jacob, so thanks Jacob. And then we also have what we've been listening to this week.
Sounds like, again, a good structure to me. Structure, form, music puns, you get it.
Hilarious.
Yeah, thank you. I know. I bring the humour to these podcasts every week. Also, we apologise for it coming out on Monday as opposed to Sunday. We had a lot of technical difficulties and issues with scheduling, but it will be back on Sunday next week. We just couldn't get around to doing it couldn't get around to publishing it in time.
Yeah.
But again, we hope you forgive us this week. At least we have an episode for you.
Yes. Okay, so Harry, would you like to go first this week?
Yes, I will go first this week. And so, my first song is I'd say, again, one of the most influential songs of 1999, but it's not the one that you might think. The obvious one for Eminem to choose is My Name Is, considering that was his breakout hit, and that's the one that most people know, especially with the iconic chorus of My Name Is Slim Shady. However, I'm not choosing that song. Instead, I'm choosing another hit from that album, In Guilty Conscience with Dr. Dre. So this is the second of many collaborations between M and Dre, and it's one of the first introductions to the Slim Shady character, it being the third track on the album, but with a twist. It's based on 3 stories, with one being a potential robber, the second being an interesting night out, and the third being a husband who's being cheated on. And Eminem is playing the bad conscience side of things, and Dr. Dre is playing the good conscience. So essentially, it's a fight between these two to try and see what decision is the right one to make. And I personally think it's really, really well done, and it shows the chemistry that they have so brilliantly, even if the subject matters are, let's say, edgy, to say the least. I presume you thought the same.
I mean, I thought they were... edgy, sure. I also thought they were, like, slightly more... I don't want to say relatable, but, like, more normal topics to be sort of debating. Just, like, things that would happen in it. Not necessarily, the outcomes of some of them, but some scenarios that would happen in a day-to-day-ish life, if that makes sense. I'm not, like, relatable, but...
Yeah, thankfully.
But not like, I have too many problems because I have too much money. Like, it's more, like... at a normal level, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes. It's the combination of the kind of realism of it and the relatable lyrics as well, but obviously taken to the extreme levels that Eminem provides, especially during his segments of the verses. And of course the narrator to set the scene as well. So it kind of introduces the plot of this particular part of the song. Interestingly as well, I thought it'd be quite good to note, is that the narrator is played by a different person in the music video from the actual song. I think it's Mark Avery is the person on the song, but Robert Culp is the person in the music video.
I mean, overall, I thought it was, like, really good and had a really good, again, storytelling element to it. And much more, like, in your face than a lot of other songs that have a storytelling element. I did think it felt a bit... This isn't like a criticism, just to me listening to it. I felt a bit jarring and a bit weird to have the narrator, and it felt like it should have been maybe 3 separate song topics just in one song. That's not a criticism. It's just an observation. Like,
I think you have to have the kind of set like narrator to put things into place, because if you just lurch from one story into the other, it's a bit like, oh, okay, wait, how have we ended up? How have we gone from a liquor store to a party? How have we done this?
Yeah.
So I think you kind of have to have that person in place to put things straight.
No, I agree. I didn't really have an alternative to having a narrator, but it breaks up the song into sort of nice sections, but it also feels a bit weird that I'm just listening to a song and I want to just like vibe out to it, and then suddenly there's someone talking in my ear, kind of thing. Like, yeah, I don't have a solution for it, but
Yeah. In the music video, there is a chorus that's playing in the background behind the narrator.
Oh,
so
okay.
that does provide a continuity, but they don't include that in the actual song, potentially because they wanted to make it more raw, and then obviously when it's sent to hit radio stations, they need that kind of continuity.
Yeah.
And so the chorus is provided underneath.
Yeah, okay. I just had one question for you. Why... I was just curious as I was listening to it, why do you think that they were sort of the way round that they were? So, like, Eminem was, like, the bad conscience and Dr. Dre was the good conscience. Was it, like, to do with, I don't know, their personal preference, or was it to do with, like, their vocal quality or, like, styles of rapping, or...?
Well, they came up with the idea whilst in the gym together, interestingly, and Dre suggested that Eminem play the bad conscience and Dre the good conscience, potentially because of Eminem's character that he wanted to portray, because, obviously... This is the track after My Name Is in the album. So you've just had that introduction to Slim Shady, and then you've got the more dangerous side to him, if even possible.
Yeah.
So I think that's why, even though Dr. Dre is obviously a former member of NWA, and also been convicted with a few interesting cases, shall we say, I think there is also the lyric of he doesn't need to go the same route that I did, that Dre says near the end, like realizing his past and therefore becoming the good conscience. So
Okay.
I think that's potentially why. But of course, regrettably, I don't know Eminem or Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
All we can do at this point is stipulate, as opposed to know.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that's fine. That's the point. That is the point of this podcast, is to stipulate and come up with all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories and ideas and stuff like that, and that's what I'm sure you lot all enjoy about this. But
yes, of course.
But a song which has its meaning most definitely set in stone is my next influential song, which is Slipknot's "Wait and Bleed." I didn't actually realize this was released in 1999 until I listened to the album Slipknot, which it is on, and I looked at it. I saw 1999. I thought, oh, this would be a great song for the podcast episode, and here we are talking about it. It is the best song from their debut, and one of the first new metal songs to break into the mainstream. This is the reason why I chose it in the influential section, because it is one of the pioneers and one of the seminal moments for the new metal genre, where it's foregoing guitar solos for a 2.5 minute blast of just rap, singing, screaming, vocals, kind of the mixture of the two. But it's about a man who has frequent visions of cutting himself, which is a bit dark, before he wakes up from one of those dreams to realise that he's actually doing it for real. And as Corey Taylor, who is the singer of Slipknot, put it, it's a depiction of the capricious nature of humans, as they can go from what seems like normal to having such horrifying thoughts in a split second, and that's what really interested him, hence why he wrote the song. And I think it's pretty decent.
I mean, my sort of past of more metal music is coming out on this podcast. It might not be a surprise to you anymore, but it might be. I really like this. I thought, I'm not like a massive fan necessarily of like screamo and shouting, unless it's used in a good way. If it's just used sort of for the sake of it, I don't like it. But I feel like this was used in a really good way, and there was the contrast with like the melodies and like actual singing. But my question's less of a question and more an observation I had, and I wondered if you shared the same observation. Do you think the contrast between like the screamo and the shouting and then the singing sections sort of represent how quickly you can change from the contrasting thoughts?
Oh man alive, that is right. I'm lost for words. I mean, that is not something I picked up. I'm not gonna lie, but now you tell me that, it does seem definitely plausible. It does seem plausible, and I think maybe it's not the differences, because I know that there is the kind of singing and screaming mixture in the choruses.
Yeah.
Potentially that's as a result of him dwindling further and further into this state.
Mm.
But yeah, that's definitely a feasible suggestion. Yeah, I really don't know what else to say about that. I think that's that really is an excellent observation. I haven't really
Thank
thought
you.
about that before.
I mean, not necessarily even like the contrast between the shouting. I've already just called screamo, between the screamo and the singing, but the contrast in the sounds of those sections. Maybe because there is some screamo in the chorus,
Yeah.
but they definitely the sections have different sounds. I just categorize them by the sort of general screamo and general singing sections.
Yeah, I think they do have definitely like I think the chorus is definitely the more melodic of the the 2-3 sections, and the verses and bridge are definitely more in your face, brash and thrash, and definitely more screamo, as you say. And maybe that's kind of like the thoughts emanating out of this person.
Yeah.
Like giving him a point of catharsis of releasing everything. Yeah, maybe the choruses are the more melodic side to take note or something, or kind of know what's going to happen, as opposed to the verses, which are kind of like what is going on. And maybe that's why it's more melodic. Who knows? But yeah, those are the two influential songs in my mind. I don't think they're influential for me personally, but I just think they're influential in the wider context of the music scene at the time as a whole. Hence why I picked them. And so moving to the favourites section, or my favourite section from 1999, and the first song in that category is the Chemical Brothers' Hey Boy Hey Girl. Again, I didn't know what this song was until maybe a few months ago. Sarah's dancing, by the way, in case you're just for a bit of context.
I am.
Yep. And it's a classic, but I didn't actually realise what it was because I heard it before in various places, and it's one of those songs. Again, I didn't know the name of, and then I looked it up, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I know this." It's a move away a bit from the big beat roots that they have with things like block rocking beats, but it continuously builds and builds and builds until you have a really recognisable riff and backing. And I think it's kind of really cool to have that mixture of the two together, especially when the bridge sections, if you like, kick in, and it's that I always think of it being like a tunnel through. I don't know why, but I always have a vision of it being through a tunnel. And I really enjoy that kind of the simplicity to it, but also the groove and the build. And also, fun fact, the Chemical Brothers are two alumni of the university we study at, the University of Manchester.
Yeah.
So, although they didn't study music.
Did they not? Do you know what they did study?
I believe one of them studied like history or something, and the other one might have studied art.
Interesting.
Or something along those lines. I know one of them studied history.
Interesting. I love this song. I don't really have. All I wrote in my notes was, don't really have a question. It's just a good vibe. I think that sums up the song pretty nicely. But
I think it does, to be fair.
yeah, I first heard this song on Just Dance of all places. It was one of the songs on, I think, Just Dance 3. But then one of my friends introduced me to Chemical Brothers. And then, but separately of Just Dance, I didn't realise. It was only when to Just Dance again, I was like, oh, that's the Chemical Brothers.
That's the Chemical Brothers, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just good vibes. Like, it's just great to dance to, great to listen to, and just have a good time.
I could not agree more, and that's why it goes in the number one spot in my favourites. I mean, again, I think it might be one of those songs you might have just heard but not realised what it is.
Yeah.
So give it a listen and try and see if you can recognise it as much as you can. But that is my first favourite song. Now, my number two is my first movement into the film music region, which Sarah has been so prominently promoting over the last 5 weeks. Now, this is the first song that actually isn't on Spotify, but of course all the other songs will be. And don't forget, obviously, we've created a Spotify playlist of all the songs we discussed this week, which you can listen to and form your own opinions on. So the song is called Blame Canada from the South Park movie. Now, I know obviously that's a bit tenuous in terms of the film link, because, well, it's a South Park movie. But it was released in 1999, and that means it's eligible for this particular podcast. It comes into the bit where, just after Kenny dies as a result of being influenced by the Terrence and Phillip movie, in case you haven't seen the film itself. And the parents need to find a reason for this, and they find that reason in Canada, since that's where Terrence and Phillip originate from. It's very satirical, with a concluding line saying that they need to blame something else in order to shift the blame from the parents to somebody else. And the Canadians who actually insulted in the song, as well as Canada's former PM, Prime Minister, loved it. And Robin Williams actually, alongside a troupe of people, performed it live at the Oscars in 2000 after it was nominated for an award in Best Original Song, which it lost to Tarzan's You'll Be in My Heart.
I don't know what to think of this. Honestly, I haven't seen the film, so listening to it just without any context was very strange. Very strange. Once I sort of understood what it was on about, it was pretty funny. Yeah, I just wondered, like, is it just your favourite? Is it, like, one of your favourites because it's the purely satirical nature of it? Or is it musically in any way appealing?
I think it's all right musically. I mean, it's got the interplay between the female and male characters. I think there are some things in there which are quite good. I know, obviously, I'm not a massive fan of the film music or musical side of things, but I think maybe it is primarily because of its satirical nature.
Yeah.
And especially because, again, I'm not the hugest fan of musicals, but I think because it's meant to be a joke, it's meant to be a Mickey take, that made it all the better for me and made it all the funnier as well.
Yeah.
Again, as you say, when you take it out of context of the film, it just seems a bit, wait, what is going on? Like, what is actually happening? But when you put it back into the context of the overall film, it makes a bit more sense, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they've made it very clear that it is just a joke. Like, it's not offending anyone, really.
No.
But yeah, I think I'm going to have to watch the film in order to completely understand it and completely sort of back it as a good song choice. But
yes,
I agree that it is funny, and it does a good job at being satirical.
Yes, that is for sure. I mean, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they know how to write stuff. I mean, obviously they did, or Trey Parker did the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
So that is why Blame Canada takes the second spot on my favourites list. So now we move on to my unknowns, and yet again, this is another song that I've been listening to for a long, long time, but didn't know it was released in 1999 until I did some research, and I found out that Oyster Band's On the Edge was released in 1999. If any of you have heard of this band, I would be very, very impressed, because this song has, I believe, 17,000 plays on Spotify, which is not a lot. But it's basically a critique about globalization and corporatization of the world, with lyrics such as Ronald McDonald's head between two bits of bread, and things moving from Shanghai to Inverness constantly, as opposed to just being like, companies not trying to brainwash people into buying their stuff and things like that. But this is, again, this is always on the car CDs early in my life that my dad created, so it stuck with me for a long, long time as a result of that.
I thought this was really cool. I'd never heard it before, and I've never even heard of them. But no, this song was really, really cool, and I really enjoyed it. Obviously, the lyrics are quite sort of politically motivated. I just wonder what your opinion was on, like, political messages in songs, more specifically whether, like, you can hear everything on a first listen, or you have to listen to it, like, a lot of times to understand it, or listen actively to pick up on the message.
I think you do have to listen to it a few times, because, again, when I was listening to it age 6, 7, 8, I wasn't picking up on anything that was being said at all. I was just enjoying the music. But looking up the lyrics and finding out what they actually are, it does make a lot of sense with what they're saying. But in terms of the political side of things, it's not a problem to talk about politics and music at all, if done right, and if done in a either clever or meaningful manner.
Yeah.
If it's just like a one-line thing, I know that I think it was Little Yachty in one of the songs. I can't remember which one it was, but he just randomly said, "We hate Donald Trump" or something like that. It came out of absolutely nowhere. It didn't tie in with the song. If it ties in with the song, then that's fine. But if it doesn't, then it's a bit like, oh, okay. but they know how to write that kind of thing,
Yeah.
so it works in that context, I feel. And it's the same thing with anyone. If you're going to do a political message or an important message, you do it as correctly and not just like one line passing in a song.
Yeah. Do you think then people like the song for the messages that it portrays, like the political messages, or like the sound?
I think both, but also the anthemic chorus, because it is quite earwormy. I think it's the mixture of those three, and when you have a good mixture of those three, you create a great song. That's why On the Edge is, in my opinion, a great song, but one you will probably never have heard of. And if you have, please let me know, because I will be as stunned as you are. But my second song is perhaps one that you might know, potentially. I don't know. Well, I mean, obviously I don't know, because I don't know what your minds are and what songs you know and what your wider knowledge of music is. But the second song I've picked is Apollo 440's Stop the Rock. It's kind of a similar style to The Chemical Brothers in a way. It's a big beat anthem. It actually reached number 10 on the charts, but it's kind of faded a little bit, I think. And it's actually heavily influenced by the riff from Sweet Caroline by Status Quo. I originally thought it was a remix of Sweet Caroline when I first heard the song, but it turns out it's just Apollo 440 using the riff and then taking it to a new level. And I know it's very repetitive, but there is a constant development and addition of layers, vocal lines and sound effects to keep it sounding fresh, in my opinion. And in case you're wondering why you might have heard of it, it's because it was featured on the soundtrack to FIFA 2000. But another one that was on that game was Body Rock by Moby, which came close to featuring on my list. But I love Stop the Rock, or Stop the Rock, as I'd love to say.
Yeah, I thought this was pretty cool, actually. I'd never heard it before.
Phew.
Yeah. I just wondered, it's not really like a, deep philosophical question, but I just wondered the lyric, in terms of the lyrics, is there any meaning to them? Are they relevant in any way to the song, or is it just completely random?
When you listen to electronic music, like as much as I have, lyrics can mean something, but sometimes they're just there to provide something to sing along to, without any substance. Like Hey Boy Hey Girl, for example.
Yeah.
Like there isn't any substance to it at all. But not many people are focusing on the lyrics. They're just there to provide an extra layer, as opposed to them being imperative. So the number of people that will be chanting "Stop the Rock" at whatever festival would be wonderful. I'd love to have seen them perform it at some point. But I think it's just like they're there to have something to work on, but they're not like as important as they could be. Like, you could probably put this as an instrumental and it would still have not the same effect, but a similar effect.
Yeah. I guess the focus is more on the actual, on the music, and then the lyrics are put in then, so yeah, to make it a bit catchier for people to sing along, to keep listening to it and keep buying it, essentially.
Yes, essentially.
Yeah.
I think that's the right way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But as much as I love good lyrics in songs, I also love electronic music, so, counteracts it. But I know that the lyrics there they're just an addition.
Yeah.
And they're a great addition, don't get me wrong, but they're just an addition. So that's my take on it. But again, obviously, that's just my view and Sarah's view. You guys can have your own views on it. Although Stop the Rock is very catchy. Don't deny it. But that is my list. So we'll move on now to Sarah's list.
Yeah, so highly contrasting to yours. I didn't realise
you don't need to preface that every week just being like, it's highly contrasting, because it is.
I say this time and I genuinely mean it, because I didn't realise, but I have more film music and more orchestral music in mind than non-orchestral music, which I didn't realise. They're just great films that came out that year, what can I say?
1999 was a great year for films, clearly.
It really was. I was looking at the Oscars and the Oscar nominees and who won, and I was shocked that all these films came out at the same time.
Clearly 99 is the best year. Just saying.
Yeah, sure, whatever. No, so my first one, however, is a song, and it's a song "Learn to Fly" by the Foo Fighters. The music video for this actually won a Grammy for Best Short Video. That was in 2001 though, so I don't really know how I don't really know how that works, but anyway, it also had Tenacious D in it, which I didn't realise. I haven't seen the video for this, but it's supposed to be a parody on the Airplane film.
That's a great film.
I haven't actually seen it, but
have you not? Watch it. Seriously, go and watch it. It's so funny.
Going to be a recurring theme throughout this. Anyway, it's also a playable track in Rock Band, which I didn't know. There you go. The song itself is about a turning point in Dave Grohl, who's the lead singer, in his life, following his like bad habits after the death of fellow Nirvana star Kurt Cobain, and him sort of trying to find something that makes him feel alive after such a tragic event that happened. It's an influential song to me, and what I sort of listen to is it turned my listening from sort of the classic emo stuff to like more classic rock, or like something with a bit more class to it, if you like. But not only was it influential to me, it seems to be influential to the band themselves, as it marks a significant turning point in their experience and their life.
How is it a turning point? Do you know?
In terms of, not in terms of like musically per se, but in terms of their personal lives. It seems to be a place where he could get out all of his emotions about how he was feeling and how he'd been treating himself and the habits he'd got into since the passing of Kurt Cobain. It seems to be a turning point in his life where he can put that sort of behind him and carry on his career. Okay,
that makes sense. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. It is actually really nice listen. And there is definitely like this dreamy feel to it throughout, potentially learning to fly, the kind of spacey altitude of it all, and just a bit, we're floating on the air, so to speak. I think there was one thing which I wasn't particularly keen on. I was wondering what your thoughts were on it, and it's the vocal effects in the bridge.
I'm not entirely sure. What can you describe like what it is for people who...
So essentially it's like, I think from what I gather, there is some kind of, I wouldn't say auto-tune, but definitely like either phasing or reverb. The vocals don't sound natural. And considering that it's meant to be a kind of, you know, not uplifting, but outpouring of emotion, is there really the need for vocal effects?
I think it's just the sound quality of his lower range. Because if you listen to it in conjunction with like the beginning where he sings lower notes, it sounds the same.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds almost like he's got a slight like telephone EQ sound, very slightly, but I think it's just because it's very low in his range, and you can definitely hear that he's sort of not straining to get the notes, but like pushing a bit further down in his range than he's maybe comfortable with. So I think it's just the sound quality of his voice when he reaches those lower notes.
Okay, that does make a lot of sense. Like, because when I heard it, I was like, I didn't know if this fitted very well with this kind of natural outpouring of grief or of emotion, whatever, that he wanted to portray. But yeah, it's still a great song. Like,
yeah,
and I can understand what you're saying, thinking back on it now.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, there might be some kind of very small sort of EQ thing going on, but that might be just to do with the fact that it might be a bit lower in his range, and they might have tried to correct some notes or something. I don't know, because they haven't written about that kind of thing, so that's what I am speculating. Now, in a very sudden shift, is my second song in the influential category, and it's the American Beauty soundtrack, composed by Thomas Newman. And I haven't seen this film, but I have listened to the score intensely for many years, and I do love it. So when I was researching the film, I realised it's just not the kind of film that I think I'd enjoy. So this film is a dark comedy drama starring Kevin Spacey and Annette Bening. The storyline of the film itself was inspired by the Amy Fisher trial in '92, which is about a girl who shot the wife of her lover. There was all sorts of affair things going on. While the film and the topic of the film is quite controversial, I think the music is quite a nice contrast to this. It's very calming, it's very understated, and it lets, I guess, the film do a lot of the talking. it was nominated for many awards and won many awards for the score. The reason it's influential is because it sort of inspired a new path for film music to make it like a bit more, it's like dial it back a bit and be a bit more understated, but also very beautiful and very recognisable, and it's inspired a lot of other film music things later. What I thought was really interesting though is the melodies, like the unresolved melodies, were inspired by minimalism, and I think throughout the piece you can hear a lot of minimalist influences.
Yeah, you can definitely hear a lot of it's very ambient. It's very, like, the thing is, again, I hadn't heard this before, but as soon as the motif kicks in, I knew what it was. I've definitely heard it somewhere, and I can't remember where. I haven't seen the film either.
Yeah.
But I've definitely heard it somewhere. But unfortunately, my question has now been ruined because
no, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask whether it was used behind like a kind of dialogue, or whether it was used in like an opening sequence, because I don't know how much it would work if isolated.
I mean, I haven't seen the film, so I'm not entirely sure, but it seems to be sort of in the middle of the film somewhere. This particular piece, sorry, I didn't think I said at the beginning, it's like the piece that's titled American Beauty. I don't know if that was quite clear. I did say American Beauty score, but it's the piece titled American Beauty. And that's sort of in the middle of the the middle of the score album. So I'm assuming it's sort of in the middle of the film, where there's a lot of, I don't think it's a very action film, but a lot of dialogue that's happening over the top of it. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, I think that's why it's particularly understated and minimalist in a way. Like, minimalist not only in terms of like the techniques and used, but minimalist in terms of volume and dynamics. But yeah, so the next category is my favourites category, obviously. So my third song is Harry's just put his head in his hands, and
because I know what's coming.
I would be too. I mean, I love the song, so I'm just gonna get on with it. It's "I Want It That Way" by Backstreet Boys. Yeah, I'm that person. Okay, so it's their most famous song, I reckon. Well, I don't reckon. It reached number 1 in over 25 countries. Just because they're that good, Harry. So stop looking so disappointed in my choices. So it's a pop ballad about a relationship constrained by physical or emotional distance. Apparently, I don't think people are really listening to the lyrics in terms of this song. But what I found really surprising was the band said that with this song they wanted to move in a more mature direction with more lyrical meaning. So yeah, make of that what you will. This song is such a tune. I remember in my first year flat, me and my friend used to sing along to it all the time. When we were just out in public, it would be silent, one of us would just go, "Tell me why." And it'd just be so funny. Oh, it was great. Anyway, but it was reintroduced to me in the episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. You probably have seen the scene where there's like a lineup of people, and one of the cops, Jake Peralta, makes them sing a line of the song each, and he gets really, really invested in them singing the song and like directing them singing the song that he forgets that he's actually trying to solve a crime here. But I guess the song isn't necessarily musically amazing, but it's such a sing along at the top of your voice kind of song. Like, and the key change at the end is kind of iconic. There's really one to say about that. Is
it though? like this was my question. Like, is the key change like really iconic, or is it just to add more time to the song and therefore generate more money through radio airplay and stuff like that? Because they repeat the chorus 3 times after the key change. Does that really make it iconic, or is it just to add?
I mean, I think it's iconic. I think maybe the reason they put it in was because, need more time, get more radio play. But it's become iconic. And I think, because a lot of songs did that around this time. I think S Club 7, every single song they did, I kind of love them, but every single song they did had a key change at the end, and it probably was to get more time. But they've now become iconic and synonymous of that era of music.
Have you by any chance heard the Weird Al Yankovic parody of the song called eBay?
I haven't, but I've seen it, and I've heard a lot of people sing it to me.
It's excellent. It is, I mean, infinitely better than this. But it's like as soon as because the thing is I'm so accustomed to listening to eBay that when the actual song kicked in, I felt, oh my god, this doesn't feel right. There's not the right vocal effects or whatever, and I was like, oh yeah, of course, it's the actual song, not the parody. I need to get that in my head. But yeah, I'm sorry, the song eBay, which is the parody of it, it's a lot better. And as you might have guessed, I'm not a big fan of the song, as I'm not with most boy or girl bands of this time.
I mean, if you think about it, the parody wouldn't exist without the original song.
That doesn't make it iconic. I mean, it does, but it doesn't.
No, I'm not saying it makes it, like... I'm not saying it makes it more iconic because of that, but one of your favourite songs, or, you know, favourite things wouldn't exist without this. So just think about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, it wasn't released in 1990. The parody wasn't released in 1999, so it doesn't matter, I think. But
okay. I keep saying complete contrast, but in complete contrast with that last one, my next piece is Duel of the Fates from Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now, obviously composed by John Williams, he did all of the Star Wars films, even the more recent ones, apart from he didn't do Rogue One. That was Michael Giacchino. I'm not sure exactly how to say his last name. Giacchino, thank you very much. The piece obviously is from the first of the Star Wars prequel films, and it has that reoccurring theme throughout, and it runs throughout a lot of the pieces in it. I don't want to sing it. If I say, like, it does 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's the recurring ostinato throughout the entire piece. It runs throughout the entire piece, and trust me, I've played it. It is tiring. This is where I admit that I haven't seen any of the Star Wars films, apart from the recent ones. So I don't know when it occurs in the film, and I don't know what relation it has to the film. However, I feel like I really like it because it's so aggressive and so dramatic and just classic John Williams. Interesting fact, the lyric, because it's got a choir with it as well. The lyrics from the choir are based on a Welsh poem called Cad Godot. I butchered that completely. The translation is Battle of the Trees. But it's sung in Sanskrit. If you don't know what that is, it's the language that a lot of the Middle Eastern languages are based on. So, like English and French are based on Latin, a lot of the Middle Eastern languages are based on this language, Sanskrit. So that's what they're singing in, which I thought was pretty interesting.
That is what you call iconic. This is what you call iconic. Now, I did actually think, when you said, I haven't seen the film, this is the one time I'll let you off, because The Phantom Menace isn't very good. But the music is, exceptional. And it does come in during loads of, like, battle scenes. And I think that my question really is that why do you think that this is the one that is used in the Star Wars video games? I believe it's also used in episodes 4, 5, and 6, the Lego Star Wars ones. Yeah. And maybe not like other musics, like other battle musics. Is it potentially as a result of how recent it was in comparison to the Lego games being created, or because of how iconic it was?
I'm not entirely sure. I didn't even know it was used in the games. That's pretty cool. I think
it's used when you get into a conflict.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, a lot of the, like, if you think about the other Star Wars films, the main theme's obviously iconic. You don't even need to say that. That's what goes without saying. Then the Imperial March, which is synonymous with Darth Vader, so you can't really use that in terms of battle. And then maybe something like Yoda's theme or Leia's theme. You can't really use that going into battle. This is the only piece of battle music I can think of that has become so iconic that as soon as you go into battle, you're like, right, this is battle time. And then you can also just sing along with it as well.
I've definitely done that, I'm not going to lie. But then when I've gone into a conflict on a Lego Star Wars game, I've just gone...
It's so relentless. It's just constantly... It feels like it's gonna keep going and get faster and faster until just something happens.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's just mainly because it's so iconic, and it's also the only piece of battle music that isn't synonymous with a character that's become
Right.
iconic. I think. I don't know. That's I going off it. And if you have anything to say about that, please let me know. If you're like, no, actually, this bit of battle music was very iconic, then please let me know, because I will listen to it and probably love it. Yeah, so my final category of the unknown are two films that are potentially unknown, that I particularly like the music from. So my first film is the suite from La Vita è Bella, which is Life is Beautiful, composed by Nicola Piovani. My Italian isn't great. I did do it for 2 years, but I don't remember anything. Okay, this is a bit of a grey area. It was technically released in 1997, however that was only in Italy, and so it was released to us in 1999. It was released to the rest of the world in 1999, which is why I'm including it. It won loads of Oscars. It won including Best Actor, Best Leading Actor, Best Foreign Film, Best Original Score. There are so many actors it won. However, I have not met a single person who actually knows this film.
I don't.
Well, there you go. That just proves my point even further. It's a really lovely film. It's one of my favourites. It's a comedy drama starring, directed and co-written by Robert Benigni. Benigni? Yes, thank you. The film is about a Jewish Italian bookshop owner who used his vast imagination to shield his son from the horrors of inside the Nazi concentration camp. So it sounds a really... it's a not very nice context to the story, but the fact that he's using this comedy to protect his son from what he's seeing is something really lovely about it. The film was inspired by a book called In the End, I Beat Hitler, and it was written by this guy, Rubino Romeo Salmoni. Why did I pick a foreign film? This is very hard. And also written by Benigni's father, who spent time in a German labour camp during World War II. Yeah, as I said before, this is one of the best films I've ever seen. And because it has like the ability to make me laugh and cry within 5 minutes of each other, and I just think it's so cleverly written in terms of that, and also musically, it has the ability to go from one to the other pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a nice piece. I got a lot of relations to like the Amelie soundtrack.
Yeah.
By Jan Tiersen. I thought that was very similar to that, which is not bad, because I love accordions, and that's fine. But I was thinking when I was listening to it, it's obviously quite a sparse, well, not sparse, but like thin instrumentation section. Do you think this piece could have worked in like with more expansion on the forces used, potentially in the context of the film or just in isolation?
So yeah, in the third movement there's quite thin instrumentation, but I think it fits with the character that it's trying to portray, so the sort of reality of what's actually happening, that they are in a concentration camp and, you know, going through, to put it lightly, a very difficult time. Yeah, I think it fits with that sort of somber mood, because the other movements, sort of the first one like builds in texture, and it's supposed to, I think it's presenting like the opening of like life is beautiful and they're in this nice Italian city, nothing's happened to them just yet.
Yes.
And then the second and fourth, obviously you know that there is that underlying context of they're in a concentration camp, but it's the sort of jokey quirkiness that this character has in order to try and protect his son, basically. But the third movement is when he's sort of having, I think, a crisis and realisation of, oh dear, we're in this situation, what are we going to do?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so I've picked the suite, so it doesn't actually go along with the film. I just thought it condensed all of the themes within the film quite nicely into 4 movements for you to listen to, so you don't have to listen to a whole score for a whole film. But I do recommend watching the film and listening to the music that goes along with it more specifically. But if you don't want to do that, I completely understand, and that's why I've picked the suite itself. Okay, so the final piece is from a film that I haven't seen yet, but it's on my list and I really, really want to see it. It's a theme for My Neighbours the Yamadas, and it's a Studio Ghibli animated film. The music was written by Akiko Yano. I'm sorry if I'm again butchering the pronunciation. I don't know any Japanese, and I apologise for that. So the film is about a family just navigating the life of contemporary Japan. Unlike a lot of Studio Ghibli films, it's not got that sort of fantasy, magical storyline to it. It's just about normal life. Yeah, and that's also reflected in the music, because a lot of the other Studio Ghibli films were composed by Joe Hisaishi. I'm very sorry if I said that wrong. But it has that sort of magical quality to it to go along with the storylines and the magic used in the film. However, this composer is a Japanese female pop and jazz musician. And I think the uniqueness of not only storyline, but animation style correlates and directly with the different style of music. I think you can definitely hear her sort of poppy jazz influences in the music, even though it's a classical piece, in like the rhythms and some of the harmonies and stuff. And the melodies sound like you could probably put words to them and sing along to them, which I really, really like. But yeah.
Yeah, I again, you have ruined my question, because I was just about to ask if it could work with lyrics, but that's fine.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
But yeah, it's definitely like, it's repetitive, I think, because it is the same motif. So I think maybe a secondary question is like, do you know if the entire theme is used in the film, or whether they've cut some of it out? Because there's only so much, like, I think they repeated like 5 or 6 times. And whilst it's fine to repeat like, 2 or 3 times, there's only so much you can take in like an opening credit or opening theme before it just becomes a bit too over the top.
I don't think the music for this film is on Spotify, so I couldn't find the rest of it. But going with other Ghibli films, the theme is used later on, but it's developed and used on different instruments, but it's almost to the point of being unrecognisable, but you can slightly hear it coming from like films like Howl's Moving Castle and Spirited Away. They have their theme that they do use throughout the film, but it is in most cases highly developed and used on other instruments. Keys are changed, rhythms change, and I'm assuming, as they are quite different to the soundtracks of this film, but I'm gonna go along with the fact that that element of it is quite similar. Again, just speculation, haven't seen the film, haven't heard the rest of the music. I just thought this theme was very nice and cutesy and sort of Studio Ghibli style without being Studio Ghibli sort of magical, whimsical style. So yeah, those are my choices for this week. So let's move on to the question, which is from Jacob today. So thanks, Jacob, for this question. And it's actually less of a question, more of a album review.
We're turning into Anthony Fantano here.
Yeah, it's an album by an artist called Genevieve Artadi. I'm very sorry if I said that wrong again. Who's an LA-based musician and with a background in jazz studies, which I thought was pretty interesting, and I'll probably draw on that later. But Harry, what did you think about it?
It's definitely like, it's definitely different. I can tell you that much. I think whilst I was listening to it, I wrote down like my thoughts on all the tracks and stuff, and the album as a whole. And whilst I thought that a lot of it was actually like really good, but I think like the song Hot Mess, for example, has got like these lovely textures, these warm textures, especially and also the song Is What, I can't remember what the next bit is because I only wrote that down. I can't remember the track off the top of my head.
Is What You Believe.
Is What You Believe, that's it.
On my favourite tracks list.
Yeah, it's that Is What You Believe is definitely on my... There's a warm change, which I really liked.
Yeah.
And she does that quite a lot. However, there are some cases where it works, and some cases where I think she tries it just for the sake of it. Like, for example, in the song All I Want, there was a sudden change in it, and I was like, wait, what? Wait, this doesn't really fit.
Okay. I see your point. However, I'm gonna slightly disagree. I really, really like this album. I didn't think I would necessarily have I love the first one, which is purely a cappella. It really showcases her vocals and her uses of harmony within that, and I like the fact that you can definitely hear the jazz influences in terms of harmonies and rhythms and just how things work together. I really, really liked that. And it almost gave those vocal harmonies almost gave me Jacob Collier vibes, especially in his cover of Moon River, which does make sense because she's worked with Jacob Collier, Snarky Puppy and Thundercat. I did a little bit of research. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah, without sounding like too, I don't know what the word is, like being too much in love with her. I didn't realise music could quite sound like that. Like, I knew all the elements separately could sound, but I didn't realise it could quite sound like that when you put it all together. I think I was quite blown away, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I mean, there were some songs like Nowhere to Go as well. I really like the complex chord shifts and the kind of spaced out vocals as well. And also feels as well. There was quite a lot of syncopation, which I quite enjoyed.
Yeah.
However, I think there are a couple of things which I had as a bit of an issue with this, is that, to me, there were some songs that sounded really like other artists. So on the song Loneliness Grows, for example, I felt there was very much like a Flume and Alice in Wonderland mixture. So they're two Australian producers, in case you haven't heard of them.
Okay.
And I thought that they were like, it was basically those styles, like the Flume production and the Alice in Wonderland vocals plus production as well. And I thought that was kind of just like a fusion. And I was a bit like, oh, okay, I can kind of see a bit of derivation here. And also, a lot of it, she sounded like the vocalist from the electronic trio Nero as well. Which is not a problem, because I love Nero, but...
I know Nero. Sorry, yes.
Yeah, Nero's great.
Yeah.
But it is also a bit like, is it as original as it might be? I don't know. But that's not to say that it's bad. I don't think it's a bad album at all. I thought it was really good. There were just some things I was like, maybe there are some links to other artists, which is fine, because there always are with every album. But is it too derivative?
Do you think she will have heard of the artist that you mentioned being in jazz studies and influenced by jazz musicians, per se? Do you think she would have heard of the artist that you mentioned?
Maybe Flume. Because I think he's got a jazz background. Alice in Wonderland, definitely not.
Yeah.
Nero, definitely not. And there was also a song, Hot Mess, which I thought sounded very much like Muramasa as well. Again, she won't have heard of Muramasa, I'm pretty sure. So it's not a fault of hers, per se. It's just that when I was listening to it and like intensely just picking up on all these things, I was like, I just saw these similarities. And that's not a bad thing, because the similarities aren't like completely derivative. They are, I think they are like by accident in some cases, but not all of them. And that's fine. You're allowed to have influences, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were some bits where I was like, oh, this might be taken as this way or that way.
Yeah, I mean, apart from I've had Nero, obviously, but having never heard the artist you mentioned, I mean, I think she sounds completely unique in terms of what I've listened to. Obviously influenced and similar styles to like Jacob Collier, but not the same. Like, they have the same sort of vocal layering and harmonising that they use, but they use them both in different ways.
Yes, there are I think that it is unique. It is completely different, and it took me very off guard with its avant-garde nature. But it is there were just some things that, again, I may be reading too much into it, and that's as maybe that's what we do here. But it's that was just what I thought of it personally. But that's, again, not to say that it's like a bad album, because there were some things where I was like, this is really impressive, but then some things which I also thought maybe this didn't work, especially like Godzilla, because the vocals I thought were in a different key through the instrumental, and I was a bit thrown away by that. I was like, yeah, this doesn't really sound that good.
I mean, in terms of like whether we like it or not, again, obviously it's completely personal taste, and what we just enjoy listening to and what we don't enjoy listening to is obviously going to be influenced by what we think of this album. So don't take our word for it. Go and listen to it yourselves. I don't think I mentioned before, but the album is called Dizzy Strange Summer.
Yeah, you did mention it, don't worry.
Okay, well, I'm mentioning it again, just to reinforce it, so you guys can go and listen to it, because I mean, I can't recommend it enough. I wonder what Jacob actually thought of it. I'm assuming he liked it, seeing as he recommended it to us.
Well, you say that, but like you can recommend someone an album being like, oh, we don't really like it, but maybe these people might not like it or something.
That's true.
It's all a matter of taste and all a matter of opinion. And that's fine. Again, that's just our take on it. And as Sarah correctly says, you can have your own. So we'll put some of the songs from the album onto the playlist, but again,
we'll
go and listen to the whole
mentioned, I reckon, yeah.
Yeah, but go and listen to the whole thing. But if you want like just a sample size, we'll put some on there that we've mentioned. And you can see what you think about it. But that's just our take on Dizzy Strange Summer by Geneviève Attardi.
Lovely pronunciation there.
That's what I do best.
So I guess we're on to our final section now, and that's just what we've been listening to this week. Harry.
It's your turn to start.
Is it my turn to start?
It is your turn to start.
My first pick is by an artist I love who has released a new song about the last month or so. And it's by an artist called Declan McKenna, and it's called Daniel, You're Still a Child. It has the sort of typical indie style that he has, but it also is still quite political, as goes along with a lot of his songs that he writes. He's very good way, a very, very good way of doing that, and it's quite British, and I do love it.
Yeah, Declan McKenna is great. Like, you know the song Brazil? That's definitely one of his best.
Oh,
that's
I
a
love
fantastic
that
song.
That
is a fantastic song. And it's about football, so, you know, win-win for me.
Nice. Anyway, yeah. My second song is a song called In This Shirt by the Irrepressibles.
The Irrepressibles, yeah.
Irrepressibles, thank you very much. It's got a little red line underneath it, which means it's not a word, but that's interesting. What I'm very confused, I'm not really sure why. But in terms of this song, it's just string ensemble. I think it's a small string ensemble and just vocals. And the whole thing is just a massive build-up to the bit when he just says, I am lost. And then it just has a massive, like, string breakdown. And it's incredible. And the final song, which was released on Thursday, so it's just a new release for you. It's Billie Eilish's new song, My Future. It has a typical Billie Eilish style, but it's got a slight twist on it. Like the drum machine that she uses is, I think it sounds slightly different to her other songs. In a good way, I really like it. And the chords that she uses are very interesting, and the transitions between the chords are very interesting as well. So I highly recommend it. And the music video is really cute, and it's just really nice to watch. So I fully recommend going and watching it.
I need to listen to that at some point. I haven't got around to doing so yet, but I'll do so over the next little while, I think. So my list is obviously on the other end of the spectrum from Sarah, and my first song is one that I actually didn't really like that much when I first listened to it a few months ago when his album was released, but I've grown into it a lot more ever since, and it's Breathing by Ocean Wisdom and P Money. It's really psychedelic and about, I don't know, it's kind of a braggadocious rap, so it's nothing like incredibly special, but I love P Money's verse on it. It's ridiculously good, and then there's an interplay between the two near the end, which is again to die for. So that's why. So I've just grown to like it a lot more, having listened to it a lot more. My second song is actually from an album that my friend recommended me to listen to. And whilst I was a bit skeptical on how long the album was, because it's basically the same thing rehashed over and over again, there was one song that stood out to me, and it was Thrill. The album is called, I believe it's called Bold, or Brave, sorry, by Joyride, and the song is Thrill featuring Magia. It's bass house, which is the theme throughout the entire album, but it's got a character to it, it's got a soul, and I really enjoyed like the drop, so to speak, and it's just a groove, I think, when I was listening to it. So I was like, oh yeah, you know what, this actually really stands out in amongst the similar stuff that I've been listening to throughout the entirety of the album so far. My third one is a continuation of my, for some reason, German power metal anime arc, by a band called Powerwolf, with the brilliantly named Catholic in the Morning, Satanist at Night. And Powerwolf are basically like, they're metal, but they've got this religious theme to it. I don't think they're like Christian metal, but there's definitely a religious undertone throughout most of their songs. And I believe this song's about some form of blasphemy. I couldn't quite tell, but there's an organ in it, so I don't really mind.
Yeah.
And my final song is, again, a completely different type of metal, pirate metal, with the song Dead Boat No Fans by Ailstorm. And it's basically a 1 minute 15-second song about how someone's pirate ship is absolutely atrocious.
That's incredible.
It is. Like, what more do you want from a song than 1 minute 15 of just telling someone how bad their pirate ship is? My favourite lyric is, it was like, your cannons are incapable of firing 20 feet, and all your crew look like Lego bricks.
Oh, that's incredible.
It is. This is what we've come to expect from Ailstorm. It's just terrible writing, but brilliant at the exact same time. It's brilliant because it's so terrible, and they admitted themselves. So, you can't really go wrong with that. So that is my list of all the songs that I've been listening to this week, and that therefore rounds it all up.
Yeah.
We hope you've enjoyed this blast from the past of the best year of all time.
Second best year of all time.
No, that's not how it works. But yeah, next week we're obviously back to our really random themes of whatever it is. We haven't decided yet, but again, we will do at some stage. But thank you very, very much for listening. And until next time,
We'll see you then.